Alright. Alright. Wait there. Let me just share this, folks. Just share this. Un momento, un momento. Alright. You know, I was just setting this up and it had this feature on there. So I was like, what is that button? So it did this. I was like, I like this. Alright. Oh, wa alaikum assalam. How are you all doing, man? How are you all doing? What do you guys think? Shall I leave the feature on? Can you hear me first of all? Can everybody hear me okay? Because I plugged in the mic a little late, so I can't really tell if the mic's still... Can you... Somebody give me a... Just give me a shout. Can you hear me okay? Wa alaikum assalam. Alright, people. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about, folks. Alright, people. Alright, look at that magic. Alright, so... Right, people, loud and clear. Excellent. Shukran, Robin. Alright, ¿cómo estás? ¿Qué tal? How's it going? I know. I like the hat as well, although it's just a... it's just a filter, but it looks cool. I like it. Alright. Alright, people. Since you can hear me loud, shall I leave the filter on? You guys alright with the filter? Shall I take it off? Just give me a shout. So let's get this show started, people. Let's get this show on the road. Inna alhamdulillah wa kafah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulih al-Mustafa wa ala ibadi alladhina irtada wa man bihudahum ihtada wa bi athari ahli al-Madinah iqtafa wa ba'd فالسلام الله على القوم أهلا وسهلا بكم ومرحبا بخير راغله bienvenidos a todos. Right, Huan Ying Laitza and Swagatam, people. Swagatam, Swagatam, Swagatam. Alright, so how's it going, people? I need to kind of like be chilling like this and it like, oh yeah, oh yeah. Right, so I thought since I was doing the kind of relationship, some of the relationship questions, I put on my kind of like guru chain for the day. Just like one of those those gurus. Alright, so what's going on, people? What's going on? Talk to me, man. What's happening? Right. ¿Qué está pasando, mi gente? ¿Qué está pasando? What's going down? Salam from Islamabad. Wa alaikum assalam. Alright, so what are the questions? What are the questions? There's been quite a few things going on. 1940s. Right, yesterday had an awesome meetup. I want to chat about that as well. So, is this incognito mode? My incognito. When I got to do one of my incognito missions. Where I can't be spotted. When people are like, wait a minute, is that Mufti Abu Layth? And then one, for God's sake, my car. My car kind of sticks out from a mile away. The difficulties of this life, huh? The double lives we have to live. So, what's going on, man? What's going on, folks? Talk to me, man. ¿Qué onda pasando, people? So what are some of the questions? I want to talk about as well, like I was saying, some of the, I want to talk about, alright, let me just get to the questions as well that people have shared today. Un momento, por favor. Right, so I'll get to them as well, I've got them here. Right, what else is going down, people? Yep, Taqiyya. Robin has asked, ¿Qué es Taqiyya? What is Taqiyya, people? What is Taqiyya? It's an interesting question because Taqiyya is... Taqiyya means to kind of... What it actually linguistically means is it's from the same kind of root as taqwa and things like this. I mean, the roots of these words. And it means to kind of protect and to kind... That's the kind of meaning in essence. What it kind of has connotations of. What it means in the general kind of Islamic sense is more to do with the ability to lie, or the religious license to lie to people, to safeguard the whatever. It could be the religion, it could be other things, to kind of safeguard them, the ability to lie. Or the license, not the ability, we all have the ability to lie, but the license. Generally speaking, it's really deemed a kind of Shia thing. It's a good question, to what extent do the Shia generally say that they openly practice Taqiyya? I'm not really sure. But it's more a Shia thing than a Sunni thing. In general, I'm just saying that's what Taqiyya is. So when people will say, oh, they'll say, people are saying, Muslims are saying anything, but they're just lying. They're just pretending to like us and to do these things. But really this is Taqiyya. Like it's just a kind of pretense. And behind closed doors, they're very different. In all honesty, if we're going to be honest about the situation, there's a few things to look at. One, unfortunately, although this thing is used generally against the Shia, but unfortunately there are amongst many Muslims, general Muslims, the Sunni Muslims, there is this culture of Taqiyya. Although they probably don't use the word Taqiyya because that's probably more seen as a Shia thing, but there is this culture. Unfortunately, I don't think it's amongst, I'm not saying it's amongst most Muslims, but it is amongst some religious Muslims. So they will do things like in front of non-Muslims, they will say they will say certain things, even they know that behind closed doors we're just kind of pulling one over them. So you get this a lot, like people will say things like let's say when they're getting interviewed by non-Muslims about, like let's say they're getting interviewed about are men allowed to hit women or their wives? So I think I watched a lecture by, I don't know if it was a lecture or an interview a while back by, I think Muhammad Hijab it was. And he was being, was it Muhammad Hijab? I think it was him. In case, if it wasn't him, then okay, somebody, but that's who comes to my mind. Where he's being asked about, what is this verse in the Quran that you're allowed to hit your wives? So he kind of says, well, no, you know, this is talking really, you see, the verse is really talking about the wife is hitting the man and the man in self-defense is hitting her back. Now, that's like, besides being the most ridiculous thing, that obviously that's not what the verse is saying, right? And the interesting thing is neither do any of the Salafis believe that the verse is saying that. So that would be a clear example of applied Taqiyya. Although they wouldn't call it Taqiyya, because Taqiyya is more a Shia kind of, they would deem that this word a Shia concept. But generally this is the kind of example that you see now. A non-Muslim might catch out the Muslim here, or he might not catch him out there and then, but he might go away, read the verse and say, well, actually that's not what it says. And actually I've read all your Islam QA and Salafi websites, and they very clearly say you can hit the wife, they will say. Now, I've answered this in the past, saying these verses, I've mentioned, I've got a whole detailed response that it is haram to hit. These verses were abrogated. Now, the point is, and I've explained the context in which they were, and there's a whole detailed response on that when explaining that, look, that was the warrior kind of society they lived in. Even the women kind of were of that mentality, and I explained and it is on YouTube, you can check the detailed response. I gave an example of even in our day and age, like in 2017 last year, there was an interview of I gave the example of I think it was a Moroccan female singer who in an interview said that she said, well, you know, if I step out of line and my man or my husband doesn't give me a slap, then is he even a man? Now it stirred a huge kind of international controversy, her comments. And she said, I'm not supporting domestic violence, but I'm saying this. But what I picked up on that to say that, look, even in this day and age, some people have this kind of a mindset. If you went 1400 years ago in a warrior culture, like which was Arabia, which was really just about, they just survived on raiding other tribes, and they had a very similar culture to what came later, like as a parallel, the Viking culture. In that culture, people had this mindset, including the women, that if I was out of order, then he ought to kind of do this. So the Quran, what it did was just placed parameters at the least minimum, and as soon as that culture was to die out, it was to be deemed haram. Now, that was my response to these issues. Now, the thing is that, you see, like the Salafi as an example, like in that video clip, the other people, they will say things like, you see, they will believe that you can hit, but they will say to non-Muslims when they're asked, like they'll try to kind of word it in a... Now that is a perfect example of applied taqiyya. So I think like it's... So in a way, it is like, I think it's not fit, like, yes, taqiyya as the concept is a Shia thing. It's not generally a Sunni thing, but many Muslims today, religious Muslims, I don't think normal Muslims, like normal casual Muslims don't do stuff because they don't believe that stuff anyway. But it's the kind of practicing religious Mulvi kind of Muslims that what they do to the media. So that is a good example of this lying, and that does great harm to us, because I would ask that, look, you see, the fact that you're lying, you recognize this is wrong. You know there's a problem with with this concept. Therefore, ergo, you ought to understanding. You ought to condemn that understanding. Because, you know, because you yourself, sorry, it seems to say it's up, right? Because that understanding is obviously problematic. Hence you're saying that, oh no, it shouldn't mean this or it shouldn't mean that, because you're embarrassed. So, alright. Layth was here. Yep. That Ali Dawa, that if we die, how do you know? Is it true that you said, if we die, how do we know we won't see Ganesh? Look, guys, first of all, I'm surprised that people, you know, this is I want to say something here. I want to say something. Look, if I give somebody the courtesy of coming to hang out with me, to chill out with me, and the person I am, forget behind closed doors, live, I'm somebody who's always cracking jokes. Yeah. Now, I've got a wacko sense of humor. Now, if you have that courtesy of hanging out with me or chilling out with me, and then you try to share some of my jokes out of context, that just kind of shows the miserable low life of a person that you are. I want to just say that to start off with. Secondly, this thing about Ganesh, I can't, you see, somebody said Ali Dawa said something about you like this, that he came to see you and you said something about this. Can you explain? So I've had a few people ask me already. So yes, I mean, in this, what the context was, I think we were having a discussion about the afterlife, and we were saying like, you know, once you're dead and you get there, and I said something like, what if you get there? I said, yeah, what if you turn up and all of a sudden it's Ganesh? And I was, and then you're like, uh-oh. So I just kind of burst out laughing. So obviously, I mean, this is obviously a joke. It's not me saying I believe that Ganesh is God. Come on, behave, people. But you see, I'll tell you what is, look, I'll tell you the double standards here, though. This is interesting. When Ali Dawa and Muhammad Hijab came to see us a few months ago, and it was and they sprung the visit on me. I didn't know that they wanted to kind of have a dialogue and a debate and stuff like this. And they just contacted a mutual friend and said, oh, we're in Birmingham, just want to say salam to Mufti Layth. So I said, yeah, cool, come down, people, it's all good. I didn't even know they were bringing Muhammad Hijab for a debate. Now, we sat there and we debated on so many topics. He honestly was shocked. I think he was so underprepared. He probably thought that, you know, because I just look the way I do, I totally don't know my stuff. So he discussed from things like hell, heaven, to evolution, to polygamy, to everything, to underage marriages, everything you can mention, usul, metaphor in the Quran, linguistics. I caught him out on several things, and he came, and I'm not saying this as a diss, but fair enough, it was a good, pleasant meeting. I don't think it was an intense meeting at times, but it was very friendly still. Like, we were still, they weren't disrespectful in any way to me, and I wasn't disrespectful to them, and I enjoyed the meeting. It was an intense dialogue, but I enjoyed it. Now, they asked us, please do not record this. Right, now this is the interesting thing, yeah? They said, please do not record it, and we had recorded some of it. Right, just kind of snippets and stuff like this. Now, they said, please do not record this and please don't share this. So, because they were very courteous and respectful whilst they were there, even though we were intensely debating, but they were kind of still respectful. They weren't rude in any way. They weren't kind of like, you know, taking personal digs or anything. Very respectful like that. We had obviously one could say a very profoundly intense dialogue and debate, but still very respectful. So we honoured that. We said, fine, you know, we won't record it, and we won't generally share those things that we recorded. But then, you see, that's the thing then. So that's kind of like disappointing to say, well, okay, because you saw that we were kind of getting one over you, in a debate and dialogue, you asked us not to record and share, because we sat there for something like 3 or 4 hours. It wasn't a short sitting. But then you go and share tiny jokes of mine out of context to make me, you know, not that it bothers me, but still, it just shows the character. It shows the character. ठीक है, चलो, कोई बात नहीं. Well, let it go. It's all right. So, right, so people, how's it going, man? What's going on? What are the... I know, I thought, what the hell, let's try this look. I could switch it off, but I thought, you know, what the hell. So the thing, yeah, I mean, these things don't, the fact that they said that doesn't bother me, to be honest, but it just made me think, wow, you know, like, because you were respectful on the day, and I appreciate that, and I was respectful back, but you asked me not to record because you could see that you weren't getting the upper hand on the dialogue or anything, and we respected that, because you were generally courteous, and you said, look, you know, please, Can you not record this and can you not share it? But then to go and quote my jokes out of context, whatever. About Ganesh, Ganpat. Oh well. So anyway, so what's going on, people? What's going on? Right, so when's leg day? I do leg day. What the hell? I do leg day. Right, so why people think you don't know your stuff? People think that I don't know my stuff because obviously they take a look at me and think like, what the hell? Seriously, could this guy really know anything from an Islamic perspective? And they will be like, what did you eat for dinner? Sabah Ahmed asking, what did I eat for dinner? Rice, kidney beans. So what's going on, people? What do you think about the historical Jesus who preached about a kingdom? That's actually a very interesting question. What do I think about the historical Jesus? There's a really interesting book. I actually recommend this book. It's written by Raza Aslan called Zealot. It was recommended to me by Sheikh Sajjad, actually, who's a dear friend and a relative as well. But I hadn't really heard of the book, but I got hold of it. I love listening to audiobooks, so I got it as an audio book, and I'm still actually going through it. I haven't completed the book, but it's amazing. It focuses on Jesus, alayhi salatu wassalam, as the Jesus of Nazareth, not Jesus the Messiah. So there's two, and it's just fascinating. The research he's done, I'm like, wowed. Honestly, I really am wowed by it. So that is an amazing, I would definitely, do you know Sheikh Suhail Teli? I'm not sure if I do, actually. Not so sure if I do. Some of your language is French to me because you're speaking Desi language. However, it's very, very, very personal, makes you. Alright, well, Amy, no idea. I don't, is it Desi? Am I speaking Desi? I don't, oh, am I speaking Urdu words in between? Is that what you mean? Estamos, alright, we get it, okay. That's just the way it is, and it's Birmingham after all. Is the quote from Imam Malik and Tasawuf authentic? No, it's not, actually. Can you speak Mirpuri? Hell yeah, I can speak Mirpuri. What do you think? Of course I can speak Mirpuri. But now, what is it? I'd say as in that famous legendary quote that one o gallan niriya. That those, you know, it's not that time anymore. But of course I speak Mirpuri. I can speak Mirpuri. I tend to generally speak Urdu though. But yeah, so see, you need to be a person of this world. You need to learn different languages, people. Languages are so amazing. My Spanish is going fine. Sometimes I get lazy. Somebody had asked, what do you do for studying your Spanish? So I read from some of the books, especially on Kindle and stuff like that, and I have quite a few books on this. I'm going through them. I'm at an intermediate level, so I read like some of those basic kind of stories that they've made and stuff like that, and some of the Spanish books, and then actually I just watch a lot of things in Spanish. No, not those kind of things. Nutty. I just watch like a lot of the TV series and stuff like that in Spanish, and and obviously with subtitles, but it's amazing. It helps a lot. So, right, let me see. All right, let me see. Trying to. Un momento, por favor. Un momento. All right, people, here we are. Is that any better? Are we back? Is that... Let me just take this off. Damn, how do you... Alright. So, people, I'm back. I've taken the hat off. There it is. Wasn't really a hat, but... Why not, huh? Why not? So, what is going on? What is going on, people? Ah. Right now, somebody had asked some questions about, do you watch Ertugral? I haven't actually watched that, to be fair. Abu Muawiyah's in the house. Alright, Abu Muawiyah, is that you? Right, so people are saying put that hat back on. Somebody had asked a question about what is it? What do they call them? Lashes, extension eyelashes. Right, so are they permissible? Yes, they are permissible. They're not haram, unless you're eating them. But generally, yes, that's fine. You can wear that. Please watch it. Ertugral. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know. I got. Yeah, maybe, but it's just so long-winded. He's on one. I don't know what that means. Right. So 5-meter extensions. 5-meter extensions. Yeah. What kind of what stuff are you smoking? Tyson is fluent in Mirpuri. Acha. Sunni Defence is obsessed with you. Yeah, they are. I have that effect on people. It's a curse. People, they either love me or they hate me with a passion. Is that I think the internet may have been wavering, but hopefully it's back. So, yeah, this thing about eyelashes and stuff like that, it's not haram. But that said, I want to add a caveat here. Right. Pay attention, folks. Pay attention. So what it is, look, makeup and stuff like this, I've mentioned before, is not haram. Yeah. And people, many scholars have mentioned that. Sheikh Didu, the Mauritanian Maliki scholar, Sheikh Ahmed, what's his name, Ghamidi from Saudi Arabia has mentioned that. So these kind of rulings are already there. I'm not the first person to say stuff like that. Yeah, that was iced coffee, that just to kind of get me into, to wake up shop people. So, and obviously my real drink lies right here. So, that said, I want to say a little caveat here, especially since I was asked a lot of questions about relationships. So I thought, well, today I'll tackle some of them. And since this ties in remotely, I suppose, to relationships. Look, with makeup or eyelashes extensions or I don't know, all the kind of, I don't even know I don't even know what the stuff is called, but like whether it's going to be the foundation or the other stuff they put on, and girls put on like a kind of mask, and the complexion thing, and I don't know, but they put on loads of stuff. Now, in my harem, in my harem, when I go in there time to time, I see like all the girls have put on all the but the thing is that, you see, what I wanted to say is that makeup is not haram. However, for the love of God, I have seen some of these really scary before and after images. Honestly, I have seen some images, like I've been like, you can go on YouTube and you can see, or you can see on social media, there will be some like makeup before after, like deceptive kind of makeup thing. Honestly, you'll be like, what the hell? That, for the love of God, that kind of makeup. Look, don't get me wrong. At the end of the makeup, the girl, of course, she looks good. I'm not saying she doesn't look good. But, God forbid, should there be some rain, should the Lord send down His rain in abundance, then the guy obviously would be like, okay. Oh! No! Honestly, they are so different, so different. What the hell is that about? You can't do stuff like that. That's pure deception, man. That stuff's evil. That stuff, you need to put those people on a cross and just like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, what the hell? That's pure evil, man. You couldn't, especially if the guy had no idea. And this is the woman saying, well, you know, hey, I just did a little touch up with a bit of powder. And she's literally got a different face on. So that is like, whoa, like some of those pictures I've seen, they're so bloody scary. Like you'd think, what the hell? Like, can you imagine if that was an arranged marriage? And the guy's like, okay, and he goes to sleep like that. And then he wakes up, oh! He's like, bro. It's like, bro, have you seen my wife anywhere? He's like, uncle. He's like having to wake her up. He's like, uncle. Have you seen my wife anywhere? Man, that stuff is just so scary, man, honestly. So that, I would say, is definitely, that is forbidden. People like that, do not do that. That is just some evil stuff. Makeup ought to just enhance people, not kind of deceive the hell out of the other person. So anyway, let's take some other questions. So with wudu with lashes, getting lashed with what? Huh? Not Oh, eyelashes. Acha. Eyelashes. So eyelashes, yes, you can do wudu with eyelash extensions. You can do wudu with makeup on. You can do wudu with nail polish and all that kind of stuff on. I would have shown you, but I don't. It's only on the weekend I wear it. I don't wear it during the weekdays. No, so you can do wudu with nail polish. You can do. I've given these fatwas a while back. You can do wudu with false nails. You can do all of this stuff if they're kind of stuck on, not like something which immediately just comes off. But if it's things, I don't know how long women keep on false nails. I need to really get like a need to do my research more thoroughly. Just goes to show how much attention guys pay. Guys just don't pay any attention to, I mean, they pay attention to the thing, but they just pay no attention to any of the extended detail, like how long does that stay on, how often do you change. Guys just like, okay. I'm not really representing the male species very well, but still. So, yeah, so as long as my impression, I could be totally wrong in this, but I think, let's say they leave it on for a week, I think. I don't know, random guess there. So let's say it is a week. In that case, they can do wudu on top of that. That's absolutely fine. Because that becomes the apparent and the exterior to which wudu is done on. So, I mean, and the same with makeup, same with, I don't know, whatever kind of atta, whatever kind of flour is put on the face, and a lipstick, or I don't know, whatever it is, you can do wudu over it. Okay, wudu was just I'm representing the entire male species right throughout. So right throughout the entire animal kingdom, right? So, and if it's longer than a week, fine, same thing. I was just saying, whatever, I was just guessing, some guesswork there. But still, the main point is whatever is the exterior, the whatever is the apparent, that is what gets washed. So that's fine. You can just do wudu over that. What do you think about the our father? Huh? Our father, Robert. I didn't know we had the same father. Huh? Abba? Robert Drieb. I don't know if Abuji has been over there. I don't know if my father has has in his days been to this part of the world. But what do you think about the Our Father being being an original text or message from the Injil? Oh, cha, you meant that father. I thought you meant our father. I thought you meant dad. So the thing, as to our Father, as in our Father who art in heaven. Yes, there's nothing wrong in the Christian sense. In the Islamic tradition, we don't refer to God generally. We don't refer to God as Father, as Ab or Walid or Ab or stuff like this. We don't in our tradition. But in the Christian tradition, they did. And you can see that in earlier traditions they did. You can kind of see where they were kind of making that connection. Even in the Islamic tradition, sometimes people say you do see sometimes the term like we are all the children of God. So in the Quran, Allah, when speaking when Allah is paraphrasing the Jewish people, like speaking on their tongue, saying that the Jews said, "Nahnu abna'ullahi wa ahibba'u," that we are the beloved of God and we are His children. So that's a verse in the Quran. It's not that here the Jews were saying that we are literally like God is our dad, like He literally gave birth to us. Nobody was saying that. And neither was the Quran implying that when it said, "Nahnu, abna'ullahi," we are the sons of God. It was simply saying that we are the chosen people of God. So, we are the children of God as in a sense of endearment. That's all. We're dear to God. I don't think there's really any confusion like that when people say in other traditions. In the Islamic tradition, it was kind of cut off because I think to draw that distinction between Christianity and Islam. But otherwise, it's not. I don't think people confuse this. I don't think so. I think most people, if you said to them, human beings, we are the children of God, they know exactly what you're saying. They're not that dumb that they think God came and literally kind of impregnated the mothers of these people. I don't think anybody thinks like that. They understand that when you say we're the children of God, that we are God's special people. That's what they're trying to say, like a special creation of God. So that's fine. But in the Islamic tradition, we generally don't use. Some people, you might hear this sometimes, rarely. It's not common, but you might hear it in some places as we are the children of God, people saying it. But generally they don't. They refrain from that. And as to calling God the Father, Muslims don't. Across the board, pretty much. Yeah. So, but it's not. But we understand where the tradition is coming from. It's not coming from a anthropomorphic that God literally came and so and so. It's a sense of endearment. All right. What do you think about the ring parable from Lessing? I've got to check that out actually. Did you vaccinate your kids? I'm pretty sure they were vaccinated. I'm not against vaccinations or anything. I think vaccinations fine. Like, I'm sure. I don't know whether I'm sure they've got more vaccinations today. But when we were kids, didn't we all get vaccinated? Wasn't it the tetanus jab and some other jabs? I'm sure I've still got it somewhere on the shoulder. They came to school and vaccinated us, and don't people have stuff like do we have the polio vaccination as infants or things like this? I mean, I'm pretty sure, I've heard actually that in some cases in America that because they've stopped having these vaccinations that there's cases of polio. I heard that. I don't check it out thoroughly, but I heard this recently. It's a shame if that is the case. So I think vaccinations generally, I don't think they're a major conspiracy. That's just my understanding. Sabah Ahmed says vax are poison. Don't vax your kids, people. But then when they get polio, when they turn up with these ancient diseases like TB, then you'll be like, I never said you had to listen to me, for God's sake. I don't know. I mean, I've not thoroughly researched. I'm not gonna just pretend like, you know, it's not an area of like kind of passionate interest for me. I've not been so, but I'm not fussed. I would vaccinate my kids. Like if they went to the doctor said, it doesn't bother me in essence. To me, it's not the same as the doctor saying, hey, do you mind if I just take a kidney out of your kid? To me, it's not like that. Like that would obviously hit quite high on the what the hell. But this isn't really, to me, a big deal. Is it allowed for a man to marry a second wife without the permission or approval of his first wife? In this age, Abu Unaysa, Abu Unaysa, quick, get Abu Unaysa's wife, tag her into this. Tag his first wife in. Make her go live. Say assalamu alaikum. So Abu Unaysa has an interesting question. Unaysa, if you'd like to respond. That would be that. You see, this is an interesting discussion. Plural marriages, plural relationships, how do they work? You see, this is one of those kind of damned if you do. Like, I suppose men generally are very polygamous by nature. That's just males in general, throughout different species, not just humans. But humans, obviously, as we're concerned with, but species in general. Now the question comes, well, within a context of marriage, how does it work? How does these kind of second marriages, third marriages, this kind of stuff, do they really work? I think in a lot of these cases, they are generally recipes for disaster. I think they generally are, if I'm going to be honest. They usually do, I think, end terribly. They just end quite terrible usually. That said, if a person, from an Islamic perspective, must a person seek the permission of his first wife? See, this becomes quite a strange question, because from a technical perspective, I suppose he could get married without seeking permission from his first wife. That could happen, and Islamically the nikah would be valid. The issue would be that the first wife, obviously, then would she know or would she not know? Would she find out or not find out? So one scenario, if we run one scenario, he keeps this as a little secret and kind of keeps that going. I don't know, some kind of secret marriage or something. The other scenario, she finds out. Obviously, I think most women would never be happy with that kind of a situation, which then results in her either compromising or her leaving. And she, at that point, has the Islamic right to leave that relationship. She can definitely apply for a talaq, and she would be granted a talaq unquestionably. So that would be because when that's happened, in most cases, the first relationship is definitely, it's gonna mess up. It's just a matter of time before, you know, it's like that, you know, you get those YouTube clips like, it was at that, you know, and the guy jumps off the shed and it says, it was at that moment that Jackson realized. And it says like, beep, he'd effed up. And then he smacks his head on the thing. It collapses. So this is the kind of thing that would happen in most of those cases, I think. In some cases, to be fair, I have come across a few cases as well that people just compromise. I think relationships are really difficult in general, ain't they? They're like really, because people, and then time, and then people drifting apart. But then I suppose if there's children, and how do people keep all of that together? So it becomes quite a tricky kind of situation, that how do they, because people sometimes don't want to tear apart families, but then they don't really want to be with each other either, or maybe they don't mind being with each other, but only to some extent. And I think human beings have a fundamental need for space. They need their space. I think that is so true, though. I think people, after, like, I think they will begin to annoy each other if they don't have their space. And I read somewhere once, it was an interesting book actually. It was written by this lady who's a kind of relationship alleged expert, and I mean, not a Muslim book. I mean, it's a non-Muslim book. It's not a. It was just like an academic work on relationships. I've forgotten the title now, but it was speaking about how men and women are different in relationships, and I really, there was one thing that I kind of read in there that was really, I thought, wow, that is such an acute observation. And she said that according to research and her understanding, that men and women, they have different needs for affection. And that men, you see, although women, she said, is kind of like a straight line. This is actually kind of, it's like linear. But she said men tend to, no, it wasn't that Men Are From Mars, that book. That is a good book as well, but this was a different one. In this, she said, men seem to have more of an elasticated, she said, response. So it was like you had a chart, like a line, and you had this like a wiggly, so it was like that they stretch away and then come back, stretch away, come back, they stretch. And she said that's how men in general are. Like they're not linear. Like they have this kind of, it's like a rubber band. Like they'll kind of go away, come back, go away, come back, go away, come back. And she said and that's their kind of need for affection. And I don't know, like I thought about it from an introspective perspective, and I thought, bloody hell, that is kind of true. I thought, like, I suppose as a man, there'll be like kind of moments, like there'll be, and then you'd want space, but then it's not a kind of straight, and I thought, bloody hell, that's such a good observation. And so that's an interesting point. So, I mean, these things, I think relationships in general are difficult. So this whole thing of second marriages, and I mean, people do them. What I would say, you see, one thing I would say, or not second, whatever, I would say one thing. Look, whatever people do in life, relationships are kind of up to people that are consenting, that are, adults, that know what they're doing. I would say that they shouldn't, in general, be, like, you see, what the key thing is that you shouldn't be really harming or deceiving people to, with that kind, I suppose some level of deception, it could be argued that we all do as human beings. Somebody could say that, and that's, at a very low level, I would argue that, I would agree that is probably true, that all human beings to some low level are always involved in, whether it's a compliment to somebody that's not really true, or whether it's just agreeing with somebody even though it's not true. These are also falsehoods, but they are kind of low level. And these things are, I think human beings, society couldn't function without them. Brutal honesty is just too harsh. But I think in general, the substantial harm I'm talking about, the kind of substantial deception. So with these secret marriages, the problem with these kind of things is that people mislead sometimes. And I think it's perhaps more than sometimes. So they will, let's say this girl, she'll do nikah. So people will, like, let's say some guy will say to her, oh, I'll do nikah with you, this. And really in his mind, he's just thinking, well, you know, I'm going to leave her anyway within, let's say, a few weeks. Now, how big are my hands? I don't know. Are they normal, I take it? So the thing is that in this case, now she might agree to that, thinking, well, fine, you know, that's not an, you know, but he's telling her, oh, we're going to have a long-term relationship, we're going to be like this, but he's just lying. See, this kind of stuff I do feel is categorically haram. Why? Because, you see, you're setting people up for like a huge failure. And it's not just a huge failure, you're leading them to distrust relationships as a whole. So we have to be very careful about things like this. We have to treat these things very seriously. Because then that woman would go on to then not trusting any men. Which, I mean, to some extent, like, is understandable. Sorry guys, don't worry, I'll hold the fort in a moment. But to some extent I can understand is may have some truths, but generally speaking it's not fair to kind of completely break her trust in relationships altogether. This is why, you know, yesterday we had this amazing meeting with some of the Shia brothers came down. I'll talk a little about that as well. And one of the discussions we had was about Mutah, about temporary marriages. Now the thing is that, alright, people are just fixing up my tash. So one of the interesting thing about Mutah that we were saying, because I was speaking about one of the works by a Sunni Maliki scholar, contemporary. I was just checking if I had the book here, but it's downstairs now. It's on, it's called A Revised Reading in the Sunni Tradition of Mut'ah, and it was his thesis, and it's a very interesting book, and I haven't actually gone through it yet, but I've watched his debate on it and stuff like this. His name's Ibn al-Azraq al-Anjuri. He's a Moroccan Maliki kind of academic kind of scholar. Now, you see, the whole thing I was saying is, despite the fact that a lot of Sunnis, not a lot of Sunnis in general, but some of the Sunni scholars will really insult Mut'ah, I said, but if we're going to be fair, at least Mut'ah is very transparent. Like, at least they're being straight up. Like, they're not deceiving each other. Like, at least they both know where the relationship ends. Like, it isn't a... Because then I said that what you have in a lot of these Sunni things is these Maulvis and these religious people going and having these undercover marriages, where then they just leave the woman just devastated. And wouldn't they rather that they just were, you know, in that case, very just clear. So we had a really interesting discussion on Mut'ah, and I said that I think, and Ibn Ashur, who was the great Maliki scholar, also in his tafsir said it was not haram. But I said that my understanding was, rather than having a self-terminating deadline, that this relationship definitely terminates at the end of 3 days, or I don't know, 72 hours or 1 week or whatever, that there should be, in my understanding, that there should just be a clear understanding between a couple, if they're mature, they like each other, and even if they just thought, well, you know, we'll want to try a relationship however it is, but with the option that if they, like I gave an example, I said, let's say they were going to spend, somebody was going to spend 2 weeks together or a week together, and then they could say, well, at the end of the week, if it doesn't work out, you know, if we want to go our own ways, or if they have that understanding, or if they want it to work and extend and carry through, that they can, they have that option as well, rather than the whole thing just immediately terminating against their kind of will. So that seemed to me like I couldn't see why in any way that would be problematic from an Islamic perspective. But I don't see the Muslim scholars today providing any solutions to the problems faced by people in general, and not just young people, just people in general. I don't see them providing any solutions, because I mentioned, and we've recorded the whole dialogue, the sit down we had yesterday, and hopefully they're going to release it in segments, and it was very good. Source can't find anything in the Quran. I'm not sure what that question is referring to. But today what I was trying to say is that there's a huge deficit, a huge lack of solutions to relationship problems. Okay, so people are struggling. People are living in societies that are hypersexualized. This was another thing I said, that religion with a capital R, and Islam is a part of that, and religious scholars don't really have a solution to. Currently, they're not providing. That is sexual incompatibility. That how do you know that you're sexually compatible? And this is something, it's a huge part of relationships. I mean, sexual intimacy is a huge part of relationships. So if there is an immense incompatibility there, how would that even work? Like, how would, and I suppose, from a religious viewpoint, they don't really provide any solution. They just say, well, and what I was saying, that people need to kind of do ijtihad. Scholars need to kind of step up to the challenges and say, well, what do we do? Because this is these are everyday problems. The amount of cases I speak to where relationships have broken down, within 6 months to a year, a relationship has collapsed on so many cases. And you think, well, that is, I mean, I'm not saying a person's success and failure has to be measured by their relationship, but still, these are still, it takes a toll on a person. So yeah, you can ask each other beforehand. I have been asked about my size. You've been asked, Tuti Hood, Tuti. You've been asked. So, Assalamu alaikum. So, Akhi, what is your size? Well, brother, I have brought a pic. I have brought a life-size pic. Let me take out the A3 sheet of paper. Brother, sister, I thought you might ask that question. So I have hired that billboard over there. On the drive out, if you just pay attention to the billboard, you can see my size. And then you'll have bichare, you'll have those people, there's that condition, the micro. There's a condition called a micro. May Allah have mercy on these people. Right, so how will they answer? They'll be like, you can see this, sister, you may see this thumbnail picture. It is to life. It is to life size. That's how not to do it, people. That's not what I meant. Right, so when I said that that's a very awkward, come on, what the hell? In the first conversation, they're like, so, well, sister. Well, it is very interesting that you asked this question. Or the second, the sister has asked a very interesting question. That's not what I was talking about, by the way. I was talking about general. I mean, I suppose that could be part of the equation, but I meant the general compatibility, because some people may not be very sexual, some people may be very sexual, some people may be very, and people are different, so that's what I meant. As opposed to the HD 4K quality pictures that you're carrying around. Right, so yeah, coming back to the questions. Why ask that? Why do women have to cover their hands and feet? How would they drive men crazy? Sam Ali, big feet, well then you know big. Right, so women don't have to cover their hands and feet generally. I think that's really strange to say that. I know a lot of the madhabs have taken that ruling, but it's not true. Women don't cover the hands and feet in most part of the world, most part of the Muslim world. That would just be, most part of the Muslim world is it's hot. They are hot countries. Okay, so women don't walk around in socks. Just saying for the record, people don't live like that in hot countries. Okay, in deserts and stuff, people don't walk around wearing socks in general and stuff like this. So I'm just saying, right, so that's not necessarily the case, okay, so they don't need to cover their, and it's not because it drove men mad, although I know there may be many people that may kind of say, well, we choose to differ, Mufti, we choose to differ, but that wasn't the reason. The reason those people said about women covering completely wasn't because they were saying they're going to go mad by looking at their hands or something, although I'm sure that these are still very, obviously very feminine features, unquestionably, but that wasn't the reason. It's just because those scholars took it as a blanket statement, which, by the way, isn't proven by any clear hadith at all. There isn't a categorical hadith at all to prove that women must cover their hands and feet and stuff like. There is nothing categorical like that. That is in the hadith, that is unquestionable, and it definitely isn't in the Quran. And one could argue, if anything, from certain hadith you would find a different argument. So I'm just saying that that's not. So that wouldn't be generally the case. I've been asking my question for ages. Was Noah around at the time of the Sumerians 8,000 years ago? If there were 124,000 prophets. You see, Noah alayhi salam, I'm not sure. I'm not. You see, the kingdoms of Sumer and those that came after, right up to and all these kind of kingdoms in between, that were in ancient kind of modern day Iraq, if you like, the cradle of human civilization. And places in, after, like Babylon and stuff like this, and Mesopotamia. These, where exactly was Nuh alayhi salam? I don't know exactly when he was. I obviously wasn't there. I know he was ancient, very ancient. I don't know if it was in the time of Sumer, or was it just after them, or was it around? Because the Sumer, I think sometimes people call the whole thing the Sumerian civilization, but in essence they weren't actually one civilization. But Sumer was the most ancient, and it had a major role, so therefore a lot of people just call it all. So it's like saying people referring to, I mean, this is a poor analogy, but it's like saying people referring to, let's say, the Indian subcontinent as India. It's a poor analogy, but I'm just trying to bring it a bit closer to your understanding. That if they look at, let's say, Nepal, or Sri Lanka, or Pakistan, or Bangladesh, like they might just refer to the whole thing as Indian. In a poor analogy, but in a similar way, because Sumer was it was one of the most ancient known civilizations that produced so much. The other civilizations after it, like and these other ones, they're sometimes attached, and the people just call it all the Sumerian kind of civilization, but they were actually separate civilizations. They weren't actually just one. But they become known, it kind of arches, if you like, and shadow eclipses the other civilizations. So I'm not sure where Nuh alayhi salam was, but he was definitely amongst, you know, that kind of period. And they have those civilizations have a discussion of a flood, and hence their documentation of the antediluvian and the post-diluvian kind of calendars and change and stuff like this. What was created first, the throne or water? These questions are absurd. Not the throne, nor what, like, all you need to know is that Allah, however He did, He set about creation. The throne isn't a literal throne. It'd be absurd to imagine that God sits on a throne. That doesn't make any sense. God sitting on, you know, this doesn't, like, these kind of things are just symbolic. They're just words, like, to kind of have, to denote, like, kind of royalty, and denote that in a language that humans understand. Like, humans understand kings and, you know, majesty, and so Allah is speaking to humans in human language. So He expresses these things with human expression. Not that He is a human. God doesn't sit, like, He doesn't have like a chair to sit on. He doesn't. I know some of the Salafis believe stuff like this, like, you know, God sits on a chair and He has like one leg and one foot and two right hands and two eyes and teeth, and they believe this kind of stuff, and he moves around. Astaghfirullah, but the picture you get is like, astaghfirullah, some kind of disabled, it's like, astaghfirullah, so such a horrible picture that it's kind of getting conjured up. What the hell are they doing? That's like such an insult to God. And then I love the caveat, they say, oh, but don't imagine it. Don't imagine it. You're like, well, it's a bit hard, mate. You know I have a bloody imagination, so you can't say this stuff and then say don't imagine it. Of course I'm going to imagine it. Asrar Rashid seeking attention. Wasim G has brought that to Sheikh Asrar. Lion. Yeah, I mean, Sheikh Asrar seems to once again have surfaced his head, and he's seeking a bit of attention. You know what was hilarious was last month, was it last month? Last month, Sheikh Asrar did a talk to refute me, right? So the modern muftis, or the modernist muftis, and nobody attended. And he got like all these scholars to kind of come, and some other scholars from Birmingham, and they did a talk, and I think like somebody shared a picture of it on Facebook. Like whoever shared it was upset, saying, why the hell don't Sunnis come and listen to Sheikh Asrar? And there were like something like 10 old men sitting there who look like they don't even understand English, so they were probably just there waiting for Salah. But it was such a... I was like, come on, man, get real. Obviously, you're not going to get... Do you really think people are going to come and listen to you? Like speaking about... Because at least I'm addressing real issues. You see, the thing is, I address real issues. You guys only respond to me. Allah, look at that. Who sets the discourse? All you guys do is simply just respond to me, and you don't even provide a meaningful response. So now Sheikh Asrar said something. I read some post about Mufti Majin or something, and Majin in Arabic means somebody who is, you know, always joking around, and he's always kind of doesn't take things too seriously, and they call that like from the like somebody who's always so like into jokes and humor and stuff like this, and not serious about anything. So they call that like mujun and majin, and from it comes the Arabic word majan, and like when you say, you know, can I have this free, like without any cost, is like the word majan. And so he's obviously referring to me, saying that, oh, I'm going to respond about this mufti who's a majin, he's just like somebody who doesn't take anything serious, and he's going to refute me, and he's going to discuss the Bukhari issue. I was like, come on, don't embarrass yourself. If you want a dialogue, I will have a dialogue with you on Sahih al-Bukhari anytime, provided it's in the evening and night, because I'm a vampire. But with that, you know my caveats, my conditions, put them aside. Please, if you're prepared to have a dialogue, I'm right here. I'm right here. Estoy aquí. I'm right here. So, because in all honesty, you wouldn't have a clue on the Sahih Bukhari thing. A clue on the Sahih Bukhari. You wouldn't even have a clue. The Sahih Bukhari thing, without not trying to be disrespectful, but a lot of the kind of Brailwi circles in general, they're not really clued up on things like Hadith literature and stuff like this, and maybe 1-2 of them now are looking into stuff like this, but generally they're not. But I mean, I welcome Shaykh Asrar, just reach out to me, inshallah, if you want to discuss Sahih Bukhari, but we got to have a dialogue, not that 19th century Indo-Pak style, I talk, then you talk, then I talk, then you talk to me, talk with me, right? Don't talk past me. And if you're ready for that, and he wants to, in the same discussion, he's going to do something, I think, I don't know, in a week's time or something. He wants to also refute me and Sheikh Hamzah Yusuf. I was just honored that he's refuting me with Sheikh Hamzah Yusuf. I was like, wow, I'm honored. So he's going to refute Sheikh Hamzah Yusuf as well on evolution. And he's going to obviously try to attack my Bukhari thing, Bukhari Gate. But yeah, so that's that. And he did prompt me that, where is your video on Isa? And so that is a good prompt. And so shukran, Sheikh Asrar ji, my beloved, mi amor. Right, so shukran for that. I truly have been distracted. That is a true statement. Just distracted with other stuff, usual. As we do in life, get distracted sometimes. In all the other the non-serious stuff that you're saying. And also this Bukhari Gate thing, there was months of research going into that as well. So but he's right. Where is my Jesus video? I need to do it before Jesus comes back. Because there's no point doing it if Jesus alayhi salam has already come back and then I'm doing a video saying Jesus ain't coming. So inshallah, he's prompted me. I appreciate that. So I am going to get back onto this, and I'm going to try to hopefully within the next 2 to 3 weeks get this out there as a course, inshallah, God willing. Right, so let's get back to some of these questions. Would you recommend a Sufi believer to date a Deobandi? I mean, to me, you see, it's not so much about the sectarianism or the stuff like that. It's more about the mindset. See, some people are just awkward people. Like, it doesn't matter on how, they're just awkward, and you just know, like, if that mentality doesn't fit with you, that this relationship just generally won't work. And some people, it doesn't matter. Like, you probably would never even discuss things like this. I know it sounds weird, but I think in many relationships, people don't even really discuss religion, do they? I don't think they, obviously you do certain things, like people would pray and they'd do, unless somebody's a control freak and they want to control the other person, like don't do this, or don't do that, or, why are you doing this? This is a bid'ah. I think if a person's chilled out, it doesn't really bother them what the other person does. Like if, I don't know, if somebody's, like, let's say his wife is a Sufi, or his wife is a Deobandi, or his wife is a Salafi, or his wife is, it depends how much of a, or if her husband is these things. It depends how much of a nutcase are they, as opposed to the sectarian thing. I think if people are decent human beings, these things shouldn't really matter. Unless you start to impose your views on each other, then it becomes a problem. I actually find things better that you don't even generally, unless sometimes you might discuss something religious, fine, but generally you just do your own thing. You don't really have, I wouldn't personally even, this is just me as a person, I wouldn't even really tell somebody to pray. I wouldn't personally. Like, when I say tell, I mean, like, let's say, like, my wife, or my wives, my concubines. No, I generally wouldn't. I'm not that kind of, because to me the thing is, people know what salah is. Why? they pray. Alhamdulillah, I would never. This is, as I'm saying, as a person, I would never monitor people in their salah. I would never, and I don't personally. I mean, I know some people are like that. They'll say things like, "Have you prayed?" and "Have you done this?" and "Have you done that?" I find these things to be quite controlling. Like, I don't see. People may disagree with me. I'm not saying they have to do things my way, but okay, if it works for them. But sometimes I find that if you tell somebody to pray, they probably don't want to pray because you're telling them to pray. So shouldn't they just pray on their own if they want to pray? Like, I mean, why is, like, it's different. Okay, they're going to see you praying anyway, or they might see, but why is, like, to me, these things, Islam, you see, relationships are not about imposing religion. To me, they're not about, like, you have your faith, you should be secure about your faith. You don't need to be kind of insecure, like, oh, I need to impose my my understanding of the deen on this person. What the hell is that about? I mean, but maybe people disagree and they have the, would you lash your wife if she burnt your roti? Like, whoosh, take out the whip. Right, so I mean, these things, food, you see, this is another thing. I'm not actually, as a person, I'm not actually fussed about food. I pretty much eat anything. I'm not obsessed at all about food. So yes, I eat, obviously we all eat, and yes, I appreciate nicely cooked food. That said, the food cooked generally is very nice. I won't lie, but I'm not actually fussed. Like, I could, like, let's say now, like, imagine there was no food cooked. I would be happy to just eat anything quickly. Like, I wouldn't be, like, fussed. A breakfast, eggs, sausages, stuff like that, I would just eat it. Porridge, I would just eat. I'm not actually somebody very kind of like, oh my God. Like, yes, as long as I eat, that's the main thing. I'm not actually so particular. I'll pretty much eat anything. So that's, I suppose, but some people I can imagine. Sobia Akhtar Layth, I can imagine you bend. Yeah, nutty. Creating the scandal, creating the scandal. And then I can't handle the scandal, Do you personally view Mutah as halal? I am inclined towards Ibn Ashur's view that it is not haram. I am inclined to that understanding, yeah. After having read a lot of these evidences. At first I did think it was haram. After reading some of what like Ibn Ashur has written in his Tafseer, after this detailed book, listening to those lectures, you see, I try to be objective. I try to be like follow reason and evidence. And although, like I said, I wouldn't necessarily encourage that. Like yesterday, the discussion we had, I would encourage, even if it was like people wanted a short relationship, that they just have an understanding, but with the hope that it could carry on, rather than it self-terminating. Because maybe the two people, maybe they think, well, wow, this ought to really work. Or maybe they have an understanding that, look, if it doesn't work, we just go our own way. It's all, the adults, why are people so fussed? I don't know. One is, you know what it is? There's a lot of kind of, if you're of the khabithin, it's halal. If you're of the khabithin, but this is not right, Wallahi, I don't think, look, if you disagree with something, disagree with it, but don't insult. Like, I don't necessarily, like I said, I would promote the view that there's always hope for the relationship to go on, as opposed to self-terminating. I'm being honest, but from a technical perspective, I can see the problems in declaring now. I didn't first, but I could see what Ibn Ashur has written, and he was the Grand Mufti of his day and age. He was the Shaykh al-Islam of the 20th century in his Tafseer, and this book as well analyzes all these hadith and the contradiction. The problem is that, look, the companions did practice this. Now, when you say things like, oh, and like people say, oh, this is oh, that woman's a prostitute. Don't say things like that. I mean, that's like really, you know, like that's insulting, isn't it? Like, why are you insult? See, this is the problem with religious folk. Like, when they disagree with something, they've got to insult them. You know, like, oh, if the woman did that, she's a prostitute. Why is she a prostitute? Why do you have to call her a prostitute? What the hell's wrong with you? Like, why do you have to be so nasty like that? Look, your scholars, let's say, generally the Sunni scholars, our scholars, they write that to marry somebody with the intention of divorcing them is absolutely permissible. They write this. Ibn Abdul Barr writes in this book right there, this car right there behind me. Alright. He writes that there's agreement on this. Now tell me, isn't that in some ways worse? That you marry somebody and you're just thinking, well, I'm going to leave her anyway at the end of the weekend. And they will say, like, imagine a guy did this now. Like, imagine a guy married a girl and left her at the end of the weekend. They will say that's halal. Because he was within his right. Like, they might say he shouldn't have done it, but they will say, but he's still within his right. Then in that case, why are you referring to the other where they were both just open about it as prostitution? Like, that's not fair, is it? Like, it's a very kind of a demonizing approach. So that's not what I'm gonna. So I'm just gonna say, look, be fair, people. Be kind of, and this way of just insulting people, and you gotta remember the companions did things like this. The Prophet allowed things like this for. Everybody agrees for a certain period of time. At least they agree on that. So, somebody saying, what car do I drive a Range Rover. Alright, the Mufti Mobile. Right, so if you use reason in all aspects, then whose reason is correct? This is a good question, Ayub, and I've said that... Somebody saying I drive a green Micra. That must be my incognito mode. You know, when I gotta go on an undercover mission. Right, so now somebody's asking about, Talha's asking about when was the Mutah actually banned and prohibited. Let me go through the whole book and then I will do a detailed kind of presentation of it, because I wanna know all the evidences and everything. Because he does a very detailed analysis of all the hadith involved. So I don't want to speak. I've got some knowledge. I can understand that right now that the narrations clash, but I want a more in-depth perspective and knowledge of what was going on behind the cogs. So let me do that rather than speaking out of. Yes, the Battle of Khaybar is one incident, but then there's several riwayat. One says it was somewhere else. One says it was the Battle of Khaybar. One says it was a different... And this is the problem with some of these riwayat. They're clashing with each other. She is after Mufti. Who is after Mufti? Sobia is... Well, you know, I should have an application form that you can just like kind of download to become a concubine. No, I'm joking, people. Oh, somebody had posted on here saying that somebody had posted that to speak about people going through loneliness. The application form would be an awesome on my website. Download an application. Do you teach Bukhari? No, I don't teach Bukhari. I wouldn't have a problem teaching Bukhari, inshallah, some parts in the future. Now, so no guys, don't pick on. I can see some of you picking on that Sobia. No need to pick on her. Right, so the point is, of course, I know it's all bants and jokes. So the thing that I was saying, somebody had asked about loneliness and what should people do? I think that's a very good question and very good point, that loneliness is a big issue. It's actually a very dangerous issue, because you see, the more it's ironic, because the more we're becoming connected as an international community, the more we're becoming alone. And I think this is one of the great paradoxes of our age. So we've kind of become more connected yet more lonely, and it's like, wow, like I don't And I'm just like, just trying to just fathom that, what's going on. So I think it is true that people do struggle, and I think anybody can struggle with this. It's not like, I'm not saying this as a, to kind of, people who are lonely are losers or something. That's not true. Like, people, every person, doesn't matter who you are, how much of an extrovert you are, you can sometimes feel lonely. It's not a, you know, it's not something which I think this is an innate human kind of thing. So it is quite sad, and it is, and then somebody had asked, what do they do about relationships? Somebody had posted on my thing, and it does lead to depression, and it's actually one of the major things that leads to death. Loneliness. I mean, there's a great Harvard study on this, and I watched the kind of details on it. There was a whole program on it. It was really like, wow, it kind of really shocked me. So I think these things are true. What can people do? I would say, look, sometimes it's okay to feel. Do I ever feel lonely? Yeah, I can feel lonely too. No, look, I think sometimes you can. It's not like, this is what I was about to say, that look, some kind of low-level feeling lonely or feeling down is normal. Every person will feel that at some point. That's very natural. It's okay to feel that. It's not like, you know, like something, oh my God, oh my God. The problem is when it starts to become overwhelming, when it starts to take, when it starts to kind of take over. You know, that's when it becomes dangerous, right? So right. So feeling lonely sometimes, or feeling sad sometimes, is natural. Like, and everybody, of course, I go through it as well. You know, it's not like I don't. I'm actually a very kind of an extrovert person. I'm very kind of like outgoing, and alhamdulillah, I've never had shortage of friends, like stuff like that. That's never an issue. And I'm very great. I have very good friends, like very trustworthy, really, you know, like on a level, which is something which many people don't have. That thing has never, alhamdulillah, is not an issue. But still, even then, you can feel it. It's not like, you know, sometimes you could just be there and you're thinking. See, I'm really into poetry, so sometimes poetry really hits me, and it can really, like, some of it can be so powerful, it can just kind of crush you momentarily in the moment. But that's okay. You know, it's very normal. It's a normal human emotion and experience. The problem is if this becomes the norm. You see, like, if it's a moment, like on some evening you felt like that, that's very normal, you know, it's not something. But if you are generally like that, if you're generally feeling lonely, if you're generally feeling kind of like sad most of the time, or it's getting to you a lot, like it's where you are on the spectrum, if it becomes overwhelming, you need to do certain things to snap, to kind of like, to get out, you need to get things to help yourself. One of the things is you really need to make human contact, actual human contact, honestly. If you have friends, you need to go meet up with them. You need to kind of like just do something, like just get out. If you go to the gym, go to the gym. If you go watch something, go, you know, do something, like make contact with people. It's too important. And you know, when you make human beings, we are social creatures. Isolated on our own, we can survive, but like, our world becomes something else. So when we meet other people, it kind of allows these things to just evaporate, and you just, that interaction, human contact is too important for us. Al-insan madaniyun bit-taba', as you know, Ibn Khaldun had said centuries ago, that human beings, we are social creatures. So do not undermine. So if you are lonely, and somebody had said, what about relationships? Explore different avenues, man. Like I don't know, like, I know there's a lot of websites and stuff like this, and I know some of them do take the mick, and they're kind of like just people joking and doing stuff. I think there's apps now, you know, there's like the Muslim version of like Tinder. Right, so stuff, there are these kind of apps. I haven't been on there. But I mean, there's these kind of things, and what you do is you can kind of check these apps out. You can go on these websites. But maybe, like, what I'm trying to say is try them out. Like, if you, or maybe you know people through social media, or you know people through, try them out. What I'm trying to say is you've got to try to meet people. In some way, we have more opportunities today to meet people. Yeah, there's one called Muzmatch or something. That's right. Now there's more opportunities to meet people today than ever before in human history. But at the same time, for some reason, we've become so unconfident in meeting people today than perhaps ever in human history. Like, it's weird. Like, we're in a paradox, man. We're like totally. There's somebody said a lot of gold diggers. A lot of gold. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are a lot. You know, I listen to some relationships as they've kind of broken down, and some, I think, damn. Some of the people stuff are like, you're right. Sometimes you do get people very, like, wretched, evil. I don't know, man. Just people that are just really problematic. But this is why I'm saying you get to chat to them first. You get to learn about them. You get to kind of like, you know, try to see that human thing, and maybe, you know, in some ways, maybe, I don't know, like I said to somebody, that maybe some relationships where there's distance, I don't mean it has to be like actual long distance like that, but I mean distance as in the human distance. Maybe, I don't know, like if people are, maybe that works, I don't know, maybe that for some people it doesn't, but at least to kind of get to know people. That do you, because I speak to so many people, they're like, oh yeah, we spoke to this person, he seemed alright, we went there, we got married, a horrible person. And you think, well, okay. You say, well, didn't you actually speak to each other before? Say, oh yeah, but you know, I think, like, I don't know. But I get the fact that, you know, sometimes it's difficult to tell, but maybe there should be grades to this, levels to this thing, you know, levels, a gradual approach to this relationship thing. I don't know, like, I think some women join the dating sites for dinners. What the hell, if they want a dinner, give them a dinner, who cares, man? What's so bad about a dinner? So was Adam, so that's some advice on things like that. Was Adam an individual, or rather a word referring to mankind, much like the word insan? That's an interesting discussion. Somebody just wrote Dixie's. Like, have a Dixie's dinner. Right, so Adam alayhi salam. See, like, we're jumping between topics, in between. We were thinking, because I was saying I'd been asked quite a bit about relationships. So I did say I'd respond to quite a few things on them. A reply to Sunni Defence. Sunni Defence haven't answered anything I've said. Ask them to bloody answer my actual questions. You know, like, these people are just obsessed with me, Sunni Defence. They could be obsessed with me. So they had this guy come on there. I don't know him. They had this guy kind of reminded me of the Kung Fu Panda. You know, the Kung Fu Panda kind of cartoon. So he came on there and he said, well, oh, rather. And he tried to refute me, but there was no refutation. Right? There was no refutation. Right? So, like, I was just waiting for a refutation. Oh, well, I will clearly answer his response. Well, that's not true. Farabri, of course he was reliable. How was he reliable? Oh, because somebody 150 years later said he was reliable. Oh. Well, is that how it works? Do you also approve, people's credit? from 150 years ago as well. Do you say, yeah, that person definitely, you know, how do you've never known the person, you've never known anybody he's known, how can you vouch for him? And then they just totally avoided the question, and then they said something like, look, here, Sahih Bukhari, I'm going to show you some of the differences. The differences are, look, an easy vowel difference. Chapter heading titles, rather. And look, and the chapter heading, I couldn't care less about the chapter headings. Like, yes, they are different too. And he picks one name, like he says, look, here it says Umar, there it says Amr. It's not a big difference, this one. I know, brother, this one not big difference. Why not go to the big difference? So he ignores the real challenges I'm presenting and just tackles this stupid little low-level, oh, the chapter headings. The chapter headings were all made up, a lot of them. I know that. That's not the big deal. The books, the hadith had chains different. Names, entire names in the chains were different. You know, like, so answer the actual point. Who actually said Farabri was reliable? You know, this kind of nonsense, oh, Farabri, I saw somebody saying, oh, we've answered enough now. I'm thinking, okay. And this is their answer. Oh, because why else would people take from him? People took from loads of people. It doesn't make them reliable. I even quoted Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi in his book saying that, look, by the way, when, wasn't it from this book? Here it is, still here actually. Look, see? Look at that. I even quoted from his book on Kifaya, page 84, that he says that anybody who says that just because somebody who's reliable transmits from somebody else عن غيره تعديل له بأن العدل لو كان يعلم فيه جرحا لذكره, based on if this guy knew he was problematic, he ought to have said it. This is what they're saying. What does Khatib al-Baghdadi say? هذا باطل 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 باطل. This is utter garbage, utter nonsense, he's saying. Batil. Says, لأنه يجوز أن يكون العدل لا يعرف عدالته. Could be the person didn't know about him. You just transmitted it. But فلا تكون روايته عنه تعديلا ولا خبرا عن صدقه. Just because you transmit from somebody doesn't make him reliable. Look. Gangu Teli, Kung Fu Panda. This one not nice, my friend. And Zahabi says the same thing. Ibn Hajar says the same thing. Oh, I got you. So, you know, don't try this one. You know, this one too much. So, when they try to, you see, at least quote your actual books. You're supposed to be based on hadith, for God's sake. I'm quoting hadith books. I'm not making this stuff up. The difference is I just make this look good. So, yeah, so if anybody wants to answer my actual questions, Bukhari Gate is there and it's well open. Mufti Abu Layth, the Quran tells us in chapter 4, rights over women, men are protectors of women. Right, men, الرجال قوامون على النساء. That men are those who kind of watch over women, are their guardians and protectors. Now, right, so the question is that, what is this verse about? Look, this verse is a verse of the Quran. Allah says, by that which they do, that they spend on them, take care of them, they do, and that is a guardian. But with this verse is descriptive. It's not prescriptive. Okay, so certain verses Allah is prescribing. Like Allah says, you know, like He'll say, "Kutiba alaykumus siyam," right? That I am prescribing upon you that you fast. This is prescription. Like Allah is ordaining, He's mandating. Some things Allah is just describing how the society currently works. He's just explaining to them, as that culture changes, the ruling changes. So yes, in that culture, and maybe in many parts of the world still today, patriarchal societies, men provide for their wives. Fine, if they provide, then they have that kind of, obviously, gratitude. If somebody's taking care, like if somebody's taking care of me, I have that gratitude to them, and they have that kind of status of being a guardian. Now, if they're not, if I'm taking care of them, many women in the West today, and in other parts of the world sometimes, right? So the many women today cater for their husbands. I've spoken to many people, many cases that are going through relationship breakdowns or stuff like this, and in them the woman is the sole provider. The woman has a career. She may be a doctor, she may not be a doctor, she may be anything, like a lawyer, an accountant, you name it, a teacher, whatever, or she just works. I'm not saying whether, it's not about the career, but the point is that women are not only equal on that level, but in many cases they are the sole providers. In that case, they would have that maqam. If that's, if you're a stay-at-home dad or a stay-at-home husband, I wonder what that's like. But I mean, it's, so the point is that I don't know, are they sugar sugar mummies? Is that what they? So the point is that if you're being happily catered for, that would probably be like a guy's. That'll just be all guys' dreams. They get these sugar. The woman's just catering for them, so they'll just be like, just what else is on Netflix? Right. So, but yeah. So the point is that verse today, it would only apply in the context where it applies. In the context where the women are the providers, it would be the other way around. And men wear the pajamas. If you're into pajamas. Sure, so. Why did Ibn Hajar, Sheikh Atabek's article, I haven't read Sheikh Atabek's article, I'll read it inshallah. Men ain't men anymore. Possibly. Possibly. I do think that Muslim men, there is actually a pandemic. And I think, not to be stereotypical, but I am going to be a bit stereotypical. I think Pakistani, I mean, I'm Pakistani myself, but I think Pakistani young men, I don't know, but I think there's a huge struggle, like maybe anything, especially between like the younger ages, going from the late teens to, I don't know, maybe early 30s like this. They really struggle with handling relationships, and I think they don't know how to interact, or not as in interact generally, they know how to maybe generally interact, but how to engage that role in a relationship. There's a lot of I don't know, like maybe, is it mental immaturity? I don't know, especially towards relationships. There is a lot, like, and I was actually thinking about this the other day. We're having a discussion that what are the factors to that? And because it's not, because people are comparing it to other communities, like sometimes people use the word kind of like chavs, for sometimes like the poor white community, stuff like this. But a lot of Pakistanis are not actually that poor, generally speaking. Because the way the family is, it's not poverty is not the issue. So I don't know what that is then. And I read some article on, actually I think Jahan had an article or something. He had something shared on Facebook where he was saying it was about, is it that they don't receive like love from their own parents whilst growing up? That's an interesting factor. Like, if people looked into that and studied it, that would be a really interesting phenomenon, because I think a lot of, I'm not saying all, because just today I saw somebody's, I saw on Facebook's a picture of somebody. He was just sitting there, just saying, oh, like, I mean, he was with his mum, an old lady, and he had his head in her lap. It was an amazing picture, an amazing moment. He was just saying, like, it doesn't matter how old you are, there's no place like, putting your head in your mother's lap or something like this. And he was just kind of resting. But it was interesting because I looked at it and I thought, well, I don't actually know anybody, like, from our community, I don't personally, I'm sure there are people that have that relationship with their mothers, or have that. Maybe what Jahan had shared in that article held a lot of truth, that there is a huge, maybe the way a lot of Pakistani men have been kind of brought up, they haven't really had that kind of healthy, nurturing, loving bond since they were children. I mean, they've been taken care of. I'm not saying they haven't been taken care of, but I think they haven't really had that bond by and large. I'm sure some people have, but generally, like, I was just trying to think of people. I couldn't think of anybody I know, but maybe some people are like that, but I just don't know about it. Maybe, but so it was really, so it made me think that maybe this is a reason. I don't know, but that's something. No, it's not about the being kings, treated like kings compared to their sisters. I don't think, although that does happen as well. But to be fair, that doesn't happen in all, like, when we were growing up. We're like, I mean, by those standards, in the in the 80s, growing up as little kids, we weren't like a large family then considered relative, but now we would be. I mean, we were like 6 siblings. But there was no differentiation between brother or sister or boy or girl. We just all got the hell beaten out. There was just, it was just pure military style. There was no there was no favour for being a boy. You just got the hell beaten out of you anyway. And you didn't get off if you were a girl either. It was just pure equality. It was brutal equality. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and I think it could be a Desi thing, I don't know. And I think, like, we weren't really taught emotions, were we? I think generally, like, there's a thing like we don't do emotions. And it is a shame in a way, isn't it? Like, when you think about it, like, I think sometimes it's such a shame that we don't really do emotions. But it's sad but true, I guess. Yeah. So, I mean, there is a question on the Muwatta. Alright, so we're changing topics. Any other, let's see, over-the-top gender segregation leads to... Yes, of course. That does as well. Right, so okay, let's take some... is the Muwatta the same issue? Why are Man U... I don't watch football, mate. Don't watch football. The Muwatta have the same issues as Bukhari in being problematic. Not necessarily. Why? One is because one is because the Muwatta, obviously Imam Malik transmitted it till his kind of dying breath, more or less, and the other thing was that it was such a much smaller book that was transmitted, so it's easier to transmit. Secondly, the Muwatta in itself is not a dogmatic book. So Imam Malik himself is teaching you to reject hadith in the Muwatta. So he'll bring a hadith with the most authentic chain ever, that is called the golden chain, and then he'll say, by the way, we don't act on this hadith. Now that is so different from the style of books like Bukhari, which are dogmatic texts. They are brought for you to take everything blindly. So it's very different. The Muwatta is entirely different. And it's the most classic, authentic book we have. But it's not problematic, generally speaking. It doesn't have disrespectful hadith, disrespecting our prophets. You know, on this, I want to say, look, I hope Ustad Shibli Zaman won't mind me saying this. I mean, first of all, he's going through some difficult, his family, I think his father's ill, may Allah grant his father shifa. I mean, he's a brother from stateside. He's from that. Whether he's in Canada or America, I keep mixing it up. But I have generally a social media kind of relationship with him. Always very respectful. We disagree on several issues, but always respectful. And I've seen some of his posts recently. Now, this is a good... I want to mention this. Recently, there was in public. So this is why I'm mentioning this, because this was in public. There's a scholar, Mulvi, one I've spoken of previously, known as Hamzah Maqbool. So Maulvi Hamzah Maqbool, who is from America, he's a Maliki. Just a few months ago, openly calling people like me a kafir because of me saying that I don't believe Jesus is going to come back. Stuff like this. Although in the past, when he came to the UK, was quite respectful at that time, and I was very respectful in turn as well, but recently seems to, I don't know whether it's because he feels insecure that I'm a Maliki and stuff like this, or I don't know, and he makes, in his knowledge on Maliki fiqh isn't all that anyway, but that's not the issue. The point is, he was having a go at somebody publicly on Twitter. Something to do with, the whole discussion was about some guy working out in a gym. Not me, some other guy, I don't know who the guy is. That's a bit irrelevant, but Maulvi Hamzah Maqbool, he was trying to say to him that, how dare you post pictures of your workout? Don't you know you should cover up your chest? I don't know what the guy had posted, don't really care. But that guy, the discussion began, it turned into a religious discussion. Now, he started to say, that guy said, yeah, but ain't there hadith? What's wrong with this? Islamically, ain't men allowed to uncover their chests? So Hamzah Maqbool started to say, oh my God, are you saying the Prophet used to uncover his chest in front of people? So this person said, yeah, isn't that what the hadith say or something? So they start having this back and forth. So apparently he calls that guy a bagharat. As Mulvis always do. You know these Mulvis, as soon as they can't take something, they just get like insulting. So he calls this guy bagharat. So Ustad Shibli Zaman, he comes on, joins their Twitter convo, and he says, look, Sheikh, whoa, why don't you kind of chill out a bit? That why are you calling this guy bagharat? Because in Farsi, in Persian, bagharat has a strong connotation to it. So now the conversation goes, forget the other guy, turns between these two, between Hamzah Maqbool and Ustad Shibli Zaman. And Hamzah says to him, oh, are you trying to say, and this is supposed to be a sheikh, by the way. He says, are you trying to say we can say the Prophet had his chest showing? So Ustad Shibli says, look, I don't understand the big deal. I mean, people generally in Arabia, the clothing they wore and stuff like that. And he presents a hadith. Isn't there a hadith? The Prophet was in sajda and you could see the whiteness of his kind of lats and his armpits. And he says, well, how could you see that unless it was showing? And so, check this out. Hamzah says to him, oh, how would you like it if I said that your mum, this guy is supposed to be a sheikh, and this is still on Twitter, by the way. He says, how would you like it if I said your mum walks around topless? Wow, what the... Whoa! I'm like, what the hell is that? And Ustad Shibli says to him, wow, I thought you're a Maliki teacher, a sheikh, and you should never insult a man's mum from behind a screen. And he said, look, when we meet in person, we'll talk if you're coming to whatever conference. And he says, so you're offended because it's about your mum, but you're not offended when it's about the Prophet. Now, first of all, I just want to say here, right, I wanna interject. Maulvi Hamzah Maqbool, huh? First of all, how dare you bring the sheikh's mum into this? Like you're some kind of a kid. How do you... First, I just want to get into the thinking. How do you conflate a man's chest with a woman's breasts? Like, I don't understand that kind of thinking. Like, how do you... I mean, wait there. But then I remembered that isn't Sheikh Hamzah Maqbool like borderline obese? So, maybe because of that, I can see where the confusion... He's like, cousin, wife, same. He's like, same. Cha. Obese, same. Chest, breast, same. So, But for a normal man's chest, right, it doesn't look like a woman's breasts, okay? So, I just wanted to clarify that confusion. You know, confuse ho jate hain kabhi kabhi. You know, it's like when looking in the mirror, I'm sure some people are like, acha, no, I'm still a man. But so I wanted to clarify that part. But look, in all honesty, I want to make a point here. Let me, Hamzah Maqbool, how dare you endorse in Sahih Bukhari Hadith saying that the Prophet forgot the Quran, used to completely drop verses of the Quran, only to be reminded by other people that he was that clumsy. How dare you endorse narrations that the Prophet was sexually impotent? How dare you endorse narrations saying that the Prophet, he fell down naked? And how dare you endorse narrations that the Prophet Moses ran around naked so people could see his testicles? How dare you endorse narrations that the Prophet had a sexual relationship with a child? How did this is disrespect? How did your teachers, who you fully support, refuse to criticize, said the Prophet's knowledge was like that of a madman? I don't see you criticizing Ashraf Ali Thanwi. I don't see you criticizing any of those people. You endorse that the Prophet Sulaiman alayhi salam was punished by God with a handicapped baby. You endorse that just for not saying inshallah. That's not disrespectful. You endorse that the Prophet pointed at Aisha's house and said, this is where the devil will raise its head, just because the hadith is in Bukhari. You endorse that. That's not disrespectful. You endorse this kind of nonsense that, the Prophet would make a mistake. God would make a mistake. Revelation would come down, then God would have to correct it immediately after because he didn't notice the blind man sitting there. You endorse that kind of nonsense. You endorse, this is the kind of nonsense and disrespect. The Prophet had magic done onto him, he became clumsy. You endorse that. That's okay. And somebody said that, that the companions said they saw like the armpit or the lateral side of the Prophet, and that's disrespectful. All of a sudden, your newly found love for the Prophet. Don't be a hypocrite. Condemn the truly disrespectful stuff. Right, so before you take up because he started to say, this is my love for the Prophet. I thought, get out of here with your fake love for the Prophet. Where you openly disrespect the Prophet, you don't care. You endorse it. Openly endorse it. Prophet was clumsy. Prophet was like this. Prophet ran around naked. Prophet, what's so bad about the Prophet Moses running around naked? What's so bad about the Prophet saying to a woman, give yourself to me, and she cussing him in turn, calling him like a tramp, a lowlife? And I saw somebody try to refute that point, and he just read a different translation. That's not how you refute the point, mate. It actually says suqa. Suqa in Arabic means the lowlife. It doesn't mean an ordinary person. So be genuine, okay? So this is the thing I wanted to kind of say. But yeah, so I wanted to highlight that. Guys, before I forget, I wanted to go over, yesterday we had an awesome dialogue discussion. So some of the Shia brothers came down. I don't know if you've ever seen some of their stuff online. They do a lot of Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park. There's Sayyid Raza and Sayyid Ali. And there was another brother, I think Sayyid Murtaza, unless I'm getting it wrong. But Sayyid Raza is quite active, as is Sayyid Ali. And I think they've got a YouTube channel called Ghadeer TV or Ghadeer something. Now, I want to say that, alhamdulillah, they came down. This was the first time I've ever really sat down, had such a lengthy dialogue. We probably spoke for about 4 hours. We recorded the whole thing. Most of the thing, anyway, that we recorded, which they will release. And it was an amazing, honestly, I've really enjoyed the Look, the thing is this. What we need to realize is there needs to be dialogue. There needs to be hope. The Shia too are here to stay. The Sunnis, they're here to stay. We need a message of love. We need a message of compassion. We need a message of unity of purpose. not of, somebody said Shia Blade Runner. Yeah, so Shia Blade Runner didn't come by his brother. Right, so, right, somebody's asking, I'm Amy's daughter Azra, 11 years old. What age am I supposed to pray? I mean, you can pray as long as you understand how to pray. That's absolutely fine. Right, so coming back to this, so they came down and we had a really civil kind of dialogue, and don't get me wrong, some parts of it were really interesting. We did even discuss some very controversial stuff as well, although I'm not sure whether that was maybe, I don't know if that part was recorded or not, but we did discuss, but with a sense of mutual kind of love, and this is, wallahi, this is too desperately needed, and we need to move away from this kind of hateful rhetoric. And look, don't get me wrong, look, people said, oh, and I said these things that, look, people said, oh, and somebody posted today, because so some of these guys who hate on me, some of these Wahhabis who do that Sunni Defence go, oh, look, so they got this photo from some Snapchat or something, look, Mufti is sitting with the Shia, oh, and he said, you know, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, he said, retarded Rafidis or something, he made a hashtag, and look, and I want to say something, look, and this, so they made this comment today or something, but even yesterday, I said, when I was speaking to these brothers, I said, look, I saw a clip being posted by these people about Ammar Naqshwani, where he's saying there should be hope. There should be, like, we and Sunnis have more in common than we don't. So why can't we have some unity? So they had that clip, and then they were playing an older clip where he's kind of maybe taking a dig or dissing some of the Sunnis. Now, my point, yesterday I spoke about this, and I said, look, my point is, look, doesn't it matter what he's saying now as opposed to what he may have said? Why bring up, like, why destroy a message of hope? Look, I get the fact, I'm not saying, like I said, look, yes, I've always said, look, abuse is always wrong. Abusing any venerated figures, any religious figures, always leads to just it's a recipe for disaster. But the Shia brothers agree that abuse is wrong. Not all Shias do things, like some Shias, they probably do. I'm not saying that, look, no Shia does stuff like, you know, they abuse or they verbally abuse, and they do, I'm sure they do. But then Sunnis do as well. Like, look at Sunnis, they equally, you're going to get, think about it, ISIS, what are ISIS? They still fall under the Sunni camp, you know, the broad Sunni camp. They rely on the writings of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. They rely on the writings of Ibn Taymiyyah. Are these not Sunni scholars? If you check up the Deoband website, they praise Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab as a alim of this deen and stuff like this, and a reformer. Like, so we've had people in our tradition that do wacko things as well. I'm not trying to say that there ain't Shia that don't say things. I'm sure there are Shia that say many things, that say things like, I discussed this yesterday, I'm sure there are Shia that say things like, you know, oh, that the Imams are greater than prophets, or maybe maybe there are people like this, but these Shia generally don't. And the common Shia is not saying stuff like that. The common Shia doesn't even know. Just like the common Sunni doesn't even know what Sunni is about or what Shia is about. So why are we superimposing this message of hatred? We need a message of hope. We need a message of, like, we can always hate people, but it's difficult to love people. Like, what is wrong with that? Like, look, whatever's happened in history has happened. I can't change the past. You can't change the past. We can't change the wars that happened between the companions. We can't change that. I can have an opinion on it. I do have an opinion on it. It disagrees with the Shia opinion. In fact, my opinion last year got me a lot of hate from a lot of people, because I said that I actually disagreed with the war altogether. And I said I actually disagreed with both camps in saying that none of them, neither Ali radiallahu anhu nor Muawiyah, should have gone to war. So I'm like a conscientious objector, and people really, I got a lot of slack for that last year. But the point is that, look, we can have an opinion, they can have an opinion, you can have an opinion, they can, but why can't we just get along? Why can't we just, like, okay, fine, like, if either not discuss things, or if we are going to discuss them, just discuss them without too much emotion. Like, try to have an understanding, but fine. We just, we believe in the same God, we believe in the same Prophet, we believe in the same Quran. Yes, we are different. I understand we've got different understandings, we've got different attitudes towards certain historical events, but people are not one monolith. The Shia are not one, the Sunnis are not one. Like, you could get some, ranting Wahhabis that would hate all Sunnis. You could get some extremist Brilwi that hates all the rest of the Sunnis. You could get one extreme, you could get that in anybody. So our point is that we need, and I hope, wallahi, I really enjoyed these guys. It was I'd met Sayyid Raza before, but it was quite brief. And the first time I met him, I was actually really taken aback because at that point I thought maybe the Shia community, like, I don't really think too much what do they think of me, but I thought, because I'm very open, I've always kind of admired I suppose the kind of some qualities of Muawiyah radiallahu anh and stuff like this. So I thought maybe the Shia, or maybe they might hate me or something. But when I met them last year, I think it was last year or earlier this year, the love they kind of showed me and the kind of warmth, I was actually, wallahi, I said this to him yesterday, I was taken aback. And when I came back home later on, I couldn't help but think about it, and I was really amazed that, wow, like, and it really made me reevaluate my whole understanding that, wow, like, maybe I'm just, and one of the things they said that, look, differences aside, but one thing we all really need to understand is, like, the love of the prophets. And I thought, well, that is so, why can't we unite on that? Like, look, we've got all these issues going on, and I hope people like Sayyid Raza, Sayyid Ali are the future leaders of the Shia community, inshallah, in the decades to come, because these people have a very, from what I've known of them, from our dialogue yesterday, a very kind of an understanding, compassion, a respect. There was a very respectful disagreement. We did disagree on several issues, but a very respectful, a genuine kind of, like, just being real, and not in any way hateful. Very loving. Actually bought me gifts, and I was deeply kind of touched, and so that's my message. That, look, yes, I accept. So I would like to say to the Sunni community in general and the Shia community that, look, yes, abuse is wrong on all ends. So that's something we should all accept and just take. Secondly, people are not monoliths. They're not like all one. So there are nutcases in Sunnis, and I'm sure there's nutcases in Shia. There's nutcases in non-Muslims, and there's nutcases in Muslims. This is just a human problem we've got. Now, there's genuine, loving people on all sides, and most of the people, this is the most important thing, most of the people, Sunni and Shia, have no idea what this is even about. Believe me, if you asked a general Sunni, what does it mean to be Sunni? They don't even know. If you asked a general Shia, they wouldn't know. They'd probably say something like, oh, we believe that, something, but they don't really know. So why are we superimposing a theology of hatred onto our people? Muslims, ain't we suffering enough? Like, ain't there enough attacks upon Muslims from all corners? Why not a message of hope? So I've thoroughly enjoyed, and it was a really fruitful, for me anyway, a gathering, and I'm really glad the brothers came down. I do hope they can get that recording out, inshallah, ASAP, let people benefit from it. Ustad Owais is in the house. Ahlan wa sahlan, ahlan wa sahlan. Sayyid Ali's online. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban. So that was Sayyid Ali, that was there yesterday as well. So I think really more than anything, I'm not saying, and what I loved was there was no, BS. There was no nonsense. Like, the guys yesterday, I wasn't denying, they weren't denying, but everybody accept, yes, it's true, these things do exist. People do say stuff like this. You know, people do say stuff like this. I would say, yeah, there are Sunni nutcases that say, so they call me a kafir. Let alone you guys, they call me a kafir. They, you know, but the point is that, yes, these people do exist, but can we make an effort that they are not the representatives? That the representatives are those who extend hope, who extend some kind of love, who extend some kind of compassion, the human side of Islam. The message the Prophet came with. You know, he didn't come with a message to divide and hate people. It's interesting because I want to say something. Despite all the hardship Quraysh, listen to this, despite all the hardship Quraysh gave to the Prophet, he never once taught to hate them. Not one message. In fact, if anything, one could argue he even knew the position Quraysh had in that social structure and kind of honored it in saying, Al-A'immatu min Quraysh. That, go on, then let the leaders, because right now people see the leaders as being Qurayshi, like let the leaders be from Quraysh in their society. I'm not saying necessarily for today's day and age. Some people may, but I'm not necessarily saying that. But in that society, like, but not once did he teach hatred for those people. There wasn't a message of hate that ever came from our Prophet. So that's, if anything, I would just like to part that. Is it true that there are Shia narrators in the chain of Bukhari? I believe that there are definitely some, yeah, that are Shia. There's Khawarij narrators as well. There's all sorts in the chains of Bukhari. But that's a different discussion. So I just wanted to say that a message of hope, people. I love that. And I wish people would just focus on this stuff. I see a lot of this on YouTube sometimes, this Hyde Park, this kind of, what do they call it, speaker's corner. And I see a lot of kind of sometimes bashing of each other. And I'm not saying it's restricted to, you know, everybody probably does it. I see online, maybe not in the Hyde Park so much, but online, I've seen clips of Shia bashing Sunni, Sunnis bashing Shia. I've seen a look, you know, like, and I think there comes a time where you just get fed up. And you just think, like, what does the common person even have to do with this? And I'm not saying, look, I'm admitting, look, somebody tried to post, you know, he made a comment in the past. I too have been a victim of this stuff. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to try and act like I'm some kind of, first of all, I've never acted pious. And I'm not going to act like I'm some kind of an angel. Because I'm far from, perhaps more a devil than the angel. But, and in the past, I too have been riled up. I too have said things. I have said things. I've probably said all kinds of things. I mean, somebody said he used the term retarded Rafidism or something like this, and I have used that in the past, and I'm not saying I haven't. And I used to use that word retard quite a bit in the past, and you probably noticed this year I seldom use it. I've kind of toned down a bit. Maybe it's age. Maybe I'm taking some people's advice. Like, you know, a lot of my friends have told me, Mufti, stop this kind of stuff. So, but the point is that, look, I'm not saying I haven't, but we grow with our understanding. I too have been a victim of, like, just propaganda warfare. I too have kind of just maybe thought, you know, like, I've not had a dialogue, meaningful dialogue with people from the, sometimes that was Shia. In fact, I've never had a meaningful dialogue before yesterday with people from the Shia community. So that's all I'm saying, that, look, so this clip as well that I saw of Ammar Naqshwani or the people, or any other person, if they're presenting a message of hope, you know, like, what's the point of trying to sabotage it in saying, well, oh, but didn't you a few years ago speak out? They probably did. But I mean, people's understanding grows. You know, people learn that, right, okay, you know, maybe I was condemning something, but they're not all like that. And maybe I've been misinformed. So that's what I would say. So I just wanted to kind of clarify, because people were quoting my hashtag and stuff like this, that, look, I accept, and it wasn't to cause offense. I mean, it was to cause offense at the time, why lie? But I mean, I was misinformed. I was just a product of propaganda warfare as well. And so, but I'd like to say that, inshallah, this has been a leap forward for me. In actually sitting and talking, and I would really encourage this, if we can actually sit and talk with people. Are Shia Muslim? Of course they're Muslim. This is, I think that's, of course they're Muslim. So I just wanted to kind of like put that out there. Inshallah, and I think a lot more of this to come, and I hope to see, inshallah, people like Sayyid Ali, Sayyid Raza, inshallah, becoming representatives and leaders of their communities, and bridging, allowing these, these bridges to be formed, inshallah. And look, we don't need to become obsessed with hatred. Wallahi, there's nothing, we can't undo history. If I could undo history, I would undo it, but I can't. And it is what it is. And we've got all this baggage, and most people don't even know what the hell we're on about. That's the biggest part. Nobody has a clue what we're even on about. So if we can move beyond this, as Allah says in the Quran, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. The messenger was a hope to all of us, inshallah. A message, a paragon of mercy and hope for all of us, for the world. And Muhammad Habib has asked an interview with Video Vids. Yes, of course, inshallah, I'll do it. And I was Video Vids. I think a great personality. He's got good sense of humor. I love some of his hilarious clips. We have been in touch. He did want to do an interview, and I was just a bit held up with a few things, Ramadan and all these other things. But hopefully, inshallah, I will definitely try to make that happen. Do Shia make takfir on those who reject imamate? Look, I don't know, but maybe some of them do. But that's not my point. My point is, can't we focus on all those that don't? Like all the message, like ain't there Sunnis who make Sunnis, all these Sunni imams are making takfir of me. I mean, it doesn't bother me at all, but they're making takfir of me. Like, why? Just because I critiqued some of the blasphemous hadith in Bukhari. They're calling me a kafir. I mean, I say straight, it ain't your dad's deen, mate. You can say whatever you want. I don't care. Like, you can call me a kafir all you want. It doesn't bother me the slightest. But, yes, they probably do takfir as well. There's probably people from Shia who do it as well. There's probably people from Sunni as well. But my point is, if we can filter through, this is why I was saying I'm hoping brothers like these who are very... they have a very balanced approach, become representatives, so we can kind of reach out to them. Now, yeah, of course, like as a point, like Sunnis do takfir of those who deny the caliphate. They do that. That's true as well. And so, look, this is what I'm saying. Put all this aside. Look, hate will never end. It's like it'll never end. It's a never-ending story. To hate is easy, man. To love is difficult. So this is what I want to say. Today it's become so hard to actually just have some compassion for people. Right. Any comments on, did you ever study... Right, somebody had been asking this question about the verse of the Quran, the Surah al-Fil, the Surah of the elephant. Somebody's asking Sheikh Asrar is ready on the Bukhari thing. If he's ready to have a dialogue with me on the Bukhari thing, I'm ready, but it must be a dialogue. I'm absolutely ready. In fact, I'm perhaps too ready. So I don't think he really wants to do that. But if he's ready, as the last thing I remember, Sheikh Asrar said, I will refuse to have a dialogue with you, but I will talk past you. As in, you give me 20 minutes, you have 20 minutes, but I won't talk with you. Because he knows if he talks with me, this one not easy, because I will question, and then you have to answer. So that's the... Have you heard Jeffrey Lang? I don't think I have, but I will check that out. Somebody's asked a question. Somebody's asked... some Sheikh Ruzwan, any Sheikh wants to talk with me on the Bukhari thing, let's make it happen. Right, just get in touch and we'll make it happen. As far as I've seen, not a single one is prepared to take me up on the dialogue, because they're under research. Even Jonathan Brown, Ustaz Jonathan Brown said, look, I don't have the research on it. At least he was being honest. The others, they know, they will get, honestly, I don't know, say this to kind of like put them down, but on this topic, they will get smashed to pieces, the argument. They don't have a clue, I'm telling you, and they don't have answers. And they know that this is something, I'm telling you. Put it like this, the confidence I have on the Jesus topic, and they've got all the world of evidence to support that. So if I'm confident that on this, they don't even have an ounce of what they had on that. So My confidence is through the roof, and you can put them in touch with me. Don't worry about it, man. I got this. So yeah, what I was saying, somebody had asked about Alam tara kayfa fa'ala rabbuka, that this surah, Surah al-Fil, did you not see how your Lord, what he did, with the people of the elephant, about Abraha and stuff like this, when the attack on Mecca, on the Kaaba. Now Allah says, Alam yaj'al kaydahum fi tadlil. Now Allah ruined their plot. Now the interesting thing is that in this surah there is this mention of ababil, these birds, which I think is translated into English as the common swift. Right, now Allah says that he sent them, tayran ababil, that he sent that these birds were sent. Now the question then comes that the next verse says, tarmihim bihijaratin min sijil. Now, is this tarmi, this verse, referring to the birds, that they stoned them with these particular things, catapulted them? That is the understanding that most people have taken, that these birds stoned Abraha, and Abraha turned away. That's what a lot of people have taken. What is interesting, and I did like this, is Maulana Abdul Karim al-Athari, who was from the Indian subcontinent, Ahlul Hadith, a student of Maulana Inayatullah Gujarati, from the whole Ahlul Hadith movement. In his tafsir Urwatul Wuthqa, he highlights, and inshallah I'm trying to get hold of the actual, right now I've got the actual tafsir, but it's right now in electronic copy, but I've made an order for the hard copy as well, and that way I can show you guys. Now in his tafsir he highlights how tarmihim is not going back to the birds, because you see this verb on the pattern of taf'alu in Arabic can be referring to either you in the masculine singular, or it can be referring to her in the feminine third person. Now people here, when you're referring to not inanimate but non-human objects, you tend to use the female kind of pronoun and stuff like this in Arabic. So people say tarmihim is going back to tayran ababil, the ababil tarmihim, that the ababil tarmihim, that they are stoning them. He said that because this verse starts fresh, this verse is referring to the singular you that the surah begins with. That the surah begins, that alam tara kayfa fa'ala rabbuk, that did you not see, and when you threw stones at them. So he says that the people stoning them were the people of Quraysh, that they kind of catapulted the elephants, and until that they used the kind of tools that they had, and they threw this until the kind of elephants dispersed and the people got kind of they got kind of trampled over and stuff like this, and they were like as though they'd been kind of eaten by these birds. But when Allah says he sent the birds, what was the purpose of that? And the purpose, he highlights that this Tayran Ababil is not the common swift that people are. Common swift's a small bird. He says it's referring to vultures, like vulture-like creatures that come when they know they are going to be dead bodies. And this was a symbol that Allah had sent, that these birds came as almost a sign of defeat, that these people will not only be crushed and destroyed. So it's an interesting tafsir, and I find myself kind of inclined towards that, as opposed to the birds actually stoning these people. And neither do I find myself inclined towards abil, meaning the common swift, this small sparrow-like bird, but rather the vultures. So that's the understanding I find myself inclined to. That is in the tafsir Urwatul Wuthqa by Maulana Abdul Karim al-Athari, who was Ahl Hadith and the student of, he was a khatib as well, major khatib. I think he died in the 70s in Pakistan. but his teacher from before him, from before the partition. But although he was from Gujarat, that region, Inayatullah, Maulana Inayatullah Gujarati, and who was a contemporary of Sheikh Amritsari, the main Al-Hadith scholar. So this is the kind of legacy, and I like his tafsir is awesome. Those of you that read Urdu, I would definitely advise you to get hold of his tafsir. It is just brilliant. He was so ahead of his time. So guys, I hope that's of some help, inshallah. How are we to contact you? Which of the two Facebook? Both of the Facebooks. My personal profile, and then there's the public profile. I do prefer send it through to the personal one if you want, or the public one. Either ones, I do check them both. On the personal one, it just allows me to respond with a voice note, which I can't do on the public profile. But yeah, I mean, you can send them. You can email as well, but I prefer actually through Facebook. You can send me messages through Snapchat, Malm 2014 MALM 2014. Jeffrey Lang, I don't know who that is. I'm going to find out, inshallah. I'm going to check that out definitely. But guys, I'm going to leave you with that. It's been awesome. Sorry for kind of dragging on. I did think that some of the messages really important. I'd been asked quite a few on relationships, so I thought, well, why not kind of dedicate a significant portion to that. Can I get a Quran sanad from you? Yes, I mean, I do have a sanad in the Quran. I did read the Quran from memory to a sheikh, and then took ijaza with sanad. Going back, I do have that just as part of the legacy, as part of the tradition. And yes, of course, I mean, the whole point is to kind of pass these things on. Martin Lings' book on the Seerah, I haven't read it personally. Some people try to problematize certain things in it. I don't know, but I think, look, what's wrong with just reading certain things? And I'm just if there is anything problematic, I'm sure, you don't need to necessarily take it. I haven't actually read it, so I can't really comment. What are your thoughts about Bukhari and its authenticity? I've answered on so many occasions. Bukhari, as I've said, should be like just any other book. We judge it for its individual hadith. If they clash with reason, clash with the Quran, clash with Islamic principles, then we reject them. There is no super sanctity to Sahih Bukhari, I'm afraid, okay? And I've demonstrated that through all the problems it has. And not to mention the blasphemous hadith it contains. Have I ever seen the Prophet in my dreams? I haven't, as far as I'm aware. I think maybe once there was something, but generally no. We don't need to, by the way, with dreams, it's a good point. I'll just mention, what's with the new change? Oh, I just put this on because I was doing the relationship thing, so I thought I'll act like one of those gurus. Right, so I thought, alright, people. So look, are you guys liking the bracelet? Look at that, people, look at that. Alright. Right, so the point is that, with dreams, we need to kind of ease up a bit and chill out with dreams. Dreams do not really mean anything in that sense. I spoke to somebody just recently as well, saying, oh, I had a dream, my husband was having an affair. But then, like, the same thing, you'll say, I've spoken to so many people saying, I said, well, why did you marry this person? Well, because I read istikhara and then I had a dream. I say, and so, did God continue giving you these dreams, or was that just a one-off? Or did that connection carry on afterwards as well? Does God still communicate to you in dreams? So I think, look, we need to ease up on dreams. Dreams are nothing, as Allah says in the Quran, أَضْغَاثُ أَحْلَامٍ وَمَا نَحْنُ بِتَأْوِيلِهَا بِعَالِمِينَ. These things are just new. These are kind of like neuronal gibberish. That's all it is. You've just got the neurons firing away and you've got stuff going on. Don't take it too deeply. It ain't that deep, fam. It's just a dream. So that's what I would say. People, Mu'adh, you're doing it, people. Mu'adh is here. Abdul Rafi, shukran, nice one. That reminds me, need to get to the gym, man. Need to get to the gym. What has Ibn Ashur's take on? I'll double check, actually. I'll double check. Cool, people. Nothing but absolute love for all of you, man. Take very good care of yourselves. Stay blessed, inshallah. Stay in touch. Until next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.